All right, welcome to the No Life Jackets podcast. This is episode 3 with my cousin Parker here. Just to get stuff out of the way early, you can go to nolifejackets.com, and there are some links there that do basically nothing, but you can see some stuff there. You can also email our team here directly at brian@nolifejackets.com. I just got that set up, so I'm pretty proud of it. Yeah, that's about it. So, Parker, welcome on to this horrifically professional podcast. Really, I'm wearing a watch today and everything, so I've really strapped it down. Yeah. All right.
It was good to be here.
Heck yeah. All right. So, we already talked a little bit earlier about kind of how the show works out. Basically, I just have a bunch of questions to roll through. If any time you want to ask me a question, at all, feel completely free. Or you want to move it on back. There is not really any particular format. But Parker, could you just give me like a quick Spark Notes version maybe of what you do, what you enjoy, stuff like that?
So I was a cop for about 6 years and switched over to property management. So I see over about 200 something properties in the state of New Hampshire. Work for a big company doing vacation rentals basically. On the side, just fun. Mostly either exercise, play with the dogs, or work on my video game project. I also play video games with my cousin Brian. Big game is Warzone right now, until they come out with something better.
Nice.
That's the gist.
Awesome. I think I've seen some pictures of your dogs. What kind of dogs do you have?
I got an Australian Shepherd. His name's FedEx. Came up with that name about when I was 15 years old. Figured it'd make a great name for a dog because they leave you packages of a sort. Then I have a golden retriever named Nomad.
Nice.
And he was named after the character for the video game Wildlands. I don't know if you played it, Ghost Recon Wildlands.
I have not played it, but I do definitely remember the dog in that one. All right. Awesome. Sweet. So let's just jump right into this here question. Well, actually, I'm going to provide a little bit of context. So, you're way over on the East Coast. You're in New Hampshire, right?
Yep.
Gotcha. So, my family, we're always over here in the Midwest, and so we never really got to see you guys that often. You were in Colorado. You basically drove right past us on your way through. But we never really got to see each other a whole lot. So I just remember seeing you guys very, very often, 4 different times, right? So you're all different sizes the whole way. But your family's enormous. How many siblings do you have?
It's a blended family. It's like a combination of 2 different marriages, basically. So there's a total of 10 of us, and combine us all together. So it is a lot of kids. We needed a 15-passenger van in order to get about anywhere. So that was pretty crazy. When we wanted to travel, because hotels were expensive, when you try to book that many people, we pack into a 40-foot converted Prevost. That thing was ancient. We gutted it and rebuilt the inside and everything. We had to even put in an old generator that used to be actually in some type of helicopter or something like that. So it's a pretty unique little bus that we used to travel the country.
I do remember that. That was I think the last major time I remember everybody coming and visiting. You drove your giant bus up to our tiny town of 3,000 people, increased the population by 0.5% with your arrival, and you just parked this giant bus right in front of our house with this four-row van getting towed behind it. It was pretty memorable. I do remember that for sure.
Yeah, it's like the same color as the Minnesota Vikings.
It was purple. I do remember that. I remember you guys came over and we ordered like two of those super like 8 foot long subs from Subway, and
Yep.
that was what we had. Although here, I remember this specifically. This is super weird. So I remember you come over, right? There's a whole herd of you guys, and we had a pretty big house at that time. And I remember like
Yep.
you guys were like running around. You're like, "Wow, I'd get lost in this house." And I'm like, "How small of a house did you live in? You got 12 people, man." Like,
A house feels pretty small when you put a lot of people in it.
I'd
Um,
imagine.
but the last thing I remember was like my mom getting mad at me for like soaking you with a squirt gun. That's what I remember from that trip.
Checks out, checks out. Yeah. I don't need to sugarcoat it. I used to be a little bitch with water. It was not my strong suit, in any capacity. But all right, let me go with the let me jump right in here to.
Evidently, no hard feelings though.
Oh, not at all. I don't remember that at all. Like I think the most prominent memory of you I have from meeting you would probably be at grandma's like 80th birthday party. I think you were.
How
I think I was. Let's see, that would have been like 6 years.
you'd,
I was probably
you'd
like.
probably be pushing 90, right?
She's pushing. I think she's 87 right now.
87.
She's 87. She's still kicking it. She's in an assisted living down by my parents, but yeah, she's kicking it pretty good. Um, but at her 80th birthday party, you were like doing some like weird mini magician thing where you pretended to hover off the ground. Blew my mom's mind. She couldn't figure it out for the life of her. She assumed you were magical.
I'm magical. It is the truth. But I was kicked out of Hogwarts.
Stupid Hufflepuffs.
So
All right, let me go in. All right, so first question I've got for you. Um, I've seen a lot of stuff on Facebook, and you sent me some videos directly of this game that you're making. You're using Unity to make that game? Is that the programming you're using?
So, Unity is like one of the most popular video game programming softwares out there. It's kind of it's a free software, which is cool about it. You can just go online to unity.com and download it. It doesn't cost you anything. If you want to do like a huge commercial project, you could pay for like the commercial subscription kind of pack, and that's how they make some money. Like if
Mm-hmm.
you're a huge operation of 10 people or more,
Gotcha.
then you'd go that route. It works just for like a business write-off and such. That's why some people will actually do that. But they call it indie game development, so it's basically just it's not like in India, but it's just people creating these games on their own time,
Mm-hmm.
and hopefully launching it onto like Steam or something like that, so someone can play their game someday. Some people make it big, some people don't. There's a lot of terrible games out there made by people using Unity, which has kind of given Unity a bad name at times. But the software is actually rather great. They're constantly expanding. Um, the coolest thing about it, I would say, is they are releasing kind of a new update and everything, which is going to allow them to render about 10 times or even more than that what they used to be able to do.
Oh.
So if you're not familiar with video games and how they work, everything basically comes down to what's called a game object.
Mm-hmm.
So a simple little square cube would be considered one game object. And you might have to
Mm-hmm.
have a bunch of little cubes to make up a human, kind of just like how atoms
Yeah.
make up a person. So with that being the case, that's several different game objects that you have to render just to make a person. The
Mm-hmm.
head, the arms, and then you're going to manipulate them to create animation, so like the fingers bending and stuff. You start
Gotcha.
adding in like a house and like different trees and such. You're rendering, thousands
Gotcha.
of game objects
Yeah,
per
so it'll let you
scene,
get
which
way
gets
more complex
ridiculous.
with it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool.
So if you have too many game objects in your video game, um, you actually run the risk of lagging it and it even crashing.
I
But
gotcha.
Unity is coming up with a way to render like 10 times the usual amount, so you'll actually get better graphics and everything. The worlds will be able to be bigger, so it won't be limited to these small little scenes. You'll actually have like big games. They'll become a regular thing,
Gotcha,
like
gotcha.
Grand Theft Auto, for example. So that's why I chose that. It's got a great user database, so you can go on a YouTube, learn anything you
Mm-hmm.
want.
Cool.
Unreal Engine's the big competitor, but you run into an issue where um, basically there's not a whole lot of free content out there, so it's really hard to
Gotcha.
learn
Okay.
Unreal.
Yeah, I can tell that you're definitely like deeper into this than I thought you were, right? Like from the stuff on Facebook, I was like, he's just like fucking around, making some models and stuff. But gotcha. So is like your goal with this to like launch it on Steam at some point, your finished product?
Exactly. So my hope is to, before I get to the point of Steam, is to kind of create a basic demo, create a trailer and everything, and throw it on Kickstarter.
Mm-hmm.
I think I just lost the video here. What happened? There we go. Yeah,
Oh
so I'll throw it on Kickstarter. That would allow me to then, raise funds, and I can use those funds to, um, like, hire better coders than me because I'm
yeah.
self-taught and everything. There's people that do this for a living,
mm-hmm.
so I could actually go out and use my managerial experience to kind of oversee the project and get it
Mm-hmm.
to be the way I want. Um, but like it's a great business opportunity in a sense because you're spending all this just basically investing time to create a project,
Mm-hmm.
and
Yeah, you
then
don't need
let's say you sell it
capital
for
or anything like that.
no, so you sell it for $60 a game download and get a million downloads with 60 million. So there's plenty of money to be made in it. Uh, but
Mm-hmm.
even if like, it doesn't sell, it's still like a very satisfying thing that you have a game out there that someone else might be playing.
Heck yeah. Yeah, I imagine it's a lot like, the people who like they'll like just write a book and they'll get it published and that's kind of their goal. They don't want to make they don't need to sell thousands of copies or anything, but something like that. Interesting. Okay,
I've done that.
gotcha.
I've done that too. I published a book.
Oh yeah, I think I actually have a copy of it somewhere. I think grandma gave it to me or somebody gave it to me. I can't remember who gave it to me. But
Oh,
yeah.
really?
Yeah. I think I read the introduction and then I got distracted by a comic book. But eventually I'm sure I'll get to it.
Well, when you do, be sure to leave a review.
Oh heck yeah, we'll do. It's gonna
Yeah.
be. I'm gonna make a great meme review on there. It's gonna be fantastic. This book
Yeah.
increased my fertility. It was fantastic. All right, awesome. But anyway, about this, so this game that you're like, I've seen a little bit of some stuff. So it seems, we don't have to get too technical with it here. But what's the like high level concept or maybe the inspiration for it? I can see that there are definitely some horror elements, and it's like a first person shooter sort of. But what's kind of the concept you're going for?
Oh, it's going to be a first-person horror game based on a police detective, and you're investigating murders. That's the gist of the story there.
Cool.
Having had 6 years as a police officer and such, we're kind of leaning into that to help me kind of create an authentic game. At least I hope it's authentic. But
Mm-hmm.
it's gonna kind of be fun. Horror games like Resident Evil and such
Mm-hmm.
definitely give you some jump scares. They are very immersive. You play through the whole thing in like a couple sittings. They're addicting. The puzzles are fun. So that's the kind of thing I'm going for. I like first person only because it's more immersive than third.
Mm-hmm.
Um, that's
Nice.
kind of the reason for choosing that.
Cool. Cool. I like it. So that's an easy segue actually. So I had some questions about like your time as a cop. Like you said you were doing it for 6 years. So were you like a local like town beat cop or like a state patrolman or kind of where were you at?
I was a local county. So I graduated back in 2014 from the police academy. Went to work for a town, probably roughly 2,000 people. It was called Bethlehem. I worked there for a bit,
Nice.
and then switched towns to Twin Mountain, New Hampshire. Worked there for A few years,
Mm-hmm.
and then I took a quick break in between police career to sell life insurance for a bit, and then went to work for the town of Plymouth for a year. And then after
Gotcha.
6 years, had enough.
Gotcha. Nice. Yeah, I had a teacher in high school who used to be like a small town beat cop, and he said it was like it's probably the worst job you could ever think of as being a small town policeman. Uh, he was not a particular fan of that. Interesting. Okay, so like, what got you on the path of like being a cop? Like growing up, like was it just something you always wanted to do, or was there like somebody who influenced you on it?
It's like one of those careers that like I think from a little kid you always think would be cool to do.
For sure.
Um, my brothers both joined the military, and I kind of liked the whole military structure. The paramilitary was kind of um, an enjoyable thing to jump into.
Mm-hmm.
I never hated the job. It was pretty fun and had a lot of adventures to it. I mean, there wasn't a day you wouldn't come home from work with a good story.
Mm-hmm.
But it's the politics that really kind of destroys the job, and that ends up with people actually going home sooner than later.
Nice. Okay. I like it. All right.
Want a free house? All right. Adios. Bye. I'm
Nice.
going to get more drinks, I guess.
Oh, gotcha. Just go
Thirsty Thursday, man. Wife's having too much fun.
Thirsty Thursday. Thursday is cheap drinks day usually. Either that or Tuesday. I usually flip them wherever whatever town I'm in. It's
It's
always one
two
of those
for
two.
two. What they say, 2 for Tuesday.
Nice. All right. Let me see. Did I have any other cop-related questions on here? Let's see. There was the cop. Why did you start being a cop? I got my questions all mixed up here now. Where did I go? Gotcha. All right. Cool. Gotcha. Anyway, I think you mentioned it briefly there at the end, but like, what was kind of like, was there any like particular catalyst for you like switching from being a cop to the insurance for a bit and then flipping to what you do now? Or is it just kind of, something you got tired of, want to do something new?
As a management, honestly, I was
Mm-hmm.
kind of butting heads with my supervisor.
Gotcha.
I left Bethlehem because of my supervisor. That's kind of what it boiled down to. I had
Mm-hmm.
another job opening, and my supervisor at the time was very strict on like having you call him for certain things. So I called him. He didn't answer his phone, so I tried like his other phone and didn't get an answer. So I went and just handled the situation what I thought was the best way to do it. And with small town PDs, they tend to what they call Monday quarterback you. So they come in the next day and they tell you everything that you did wrong, not thinking it from like your position and such. And
Mm-hmm.
his biggest thing is he was mad at me because I didn't call him, and I told him I did, and he was basically saying I was lying. I pulled up my caller ID and showed it to him that I did in fact call him, but like it
Mm-hmm.
was one of those things that he couldn't admit that he was wrong. And I was like,
Yep.
man, do I really want to work for a guy like this? I was young at the time. It's
Yep.
really, looking back, it's not a big deal, but it was one of those situations that, I was young, hot-headed, and I just quit and went to the next town over to work for them.
Definitely.
Um,
Mm-hmm.
so it's small town PDs. It's where you get yourself in trouble. It's just,
I gotcha.
it,
Yeah.
it, yeah, it's not big enough, so you get like major crime once in a blue moon. I probably the biggest thing I ever did was probably put down a moose. But
By pure
that's
by
what leads
weight,
to
that was
drama.
definitely the biggest thing you ever did.
They are big. They are big.
Dang. Yeah, I'd
Oh.
imagine like that always gets on me, like a supervisor or manager that just doesn't like seem to have any respect or appreciation for the people that are working under them. It just every time it's like, why would you want to work for that? It's a pretty clear sign to move on somewhere else. So yeah, that definitely makes a lot of sense.
Well, I think most people would agree there's plenty of supervisors in a managerial role who don't deserve to be in that role.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's what it boils down to. Really, we're all human. We all make mistakes. So don't pretend like you're above making mistakes. It's
Mm-hmm.
where some people think it is like a sign of weakness. I don't see it as that way. You're human. You're going to make mistakes. Own up to it.
Mm-hmm.
When you try to dismiss or act like you don't make mistakes, it just makes you look like dishonest. And I think that's
Yep.
kind of what gets a lot of people in trouble.
Gotcha. Yep, for sure. It's like there's this one. I can't remember where it's from. Some guy smarter than me, but he had this theory where like people get promoted up for doing a really good job, right? So they keep getting promoted until they're no longer doing a good job, and then they stop getting promoted, right? So what you do is you select for all these people who are not good at their current job, but like they're not bad enough to fire, but not good enough to be promoted. Sitting there, they went
Yep.
one level too high, and then you can't knock them back down. So yeah,
One level too high.
one level too
That's
high
funny.
every time. All right, awesome. All right, so I asked you the question for that. Inspiration there. So the current stuff you do for your job, you're like managing vacation houses, sort of, right?
Yeah. So Airbnbs are kind of famous for being a vacation rental property. It's a lot of people, taking their second homes, listing it online,
Mm-hmm.
trying to just rent it out and pay off the mortgage and such. If it's an empty house, you might as well rent it. So
Mm-hmm.
that's kind of where the concept is. So most of our people have like either a second home. Some of them even have like a converted space above their garage. They live on one side and they just rent
Oh.
out the converted space. So
Mm-hmm.
it's a form of what you call house hacking. House hacking also can convert into simply renting out a bedroom at your house. So
Mm-hmm.
that's the cool thing about real estate is there's kind of a lot of different ways that you can invest in it.
Mm-hmm.
And what I do is offer that kind of ability for people to rent out their house at a for just a managerial fee for about 30 something% of all the profits, and that's what we do.
Nice. Awesome. Awesome. Ooh, soup.
So it saves the people all these headaches of having to deal with guest issues because guests have a high expectation for their vacation to be perfect. So
Yeah.
when they're booking someone's house, and we all know if you own a house or your own apartment or something, things are going to go wrong. But if
Mm-hmm.
they go wrong on your vacation, like it's it's a total
Yeah,
meltdown. So
definitely worse, right? You're there
um,
for a shorter period of time. Yeah, I can definitely see that. So you're basically just managing a bunch of that stuff for people to help them out with their their house
yeah,
hacking
so
endeavors.
exactly. So in order to do it, it does require a team. So I do oversee a team of personnel. We have a bunch of housekeepers and such in
Mm-hmm.
order to flip the property, get it clean between stays. Um, and they do a marvelous job. I can't sing their praises enough. They basically will flip some of these houses that people absolutely just destroy and have it like guest ready by in just like less than 6 hours.
Gotcha. Nice, nice.
So,
Cool beans. And then I remember vaguely in a message, or maybe we were playing Warzone or something. Are you doing that with your dad, or did I remember that wrong?
no, it's with a really big company. So I don't own the company.
Yeah.
I'm supervisor on the of the company, but for reasons I just don't want to mention the name. So
Gotcha. Yeah, no worries. No worries. No need to mention that. Gotcha. Yeah, I couldn't remember if it was like a family business or something like that. Cool.
it started as a family business, but
Nice.
not my family.
Cool beans. Yeah, so like with this real estate stuff, is this something you could see yourself doing for a long time, or are you just kind of, testing out the waters, doing it for now? What's your kind of your thoughts on it?
I do enjoy this a lot. I could see myself doing this on like until I retire. It's extremely flexible. I went from working nights, weekends, and holidays, 16-hour shifts and such, where I basically never saw the life to where now I just work from home.
Mm-hmm.
I I manage remotely, so I don't actually have to be at houses or anything like that. I'm kind of available to answer questions. I kind of almost operate more like a dispatcher than anything.
Mm-hmm.
And I totally could do this until like I retire. It's really enjoyable.
Awesome. Cool beans. That's cool that you found something that cool. That's awesome. All right, let me see. Where did I go with? All right, here we go. So let's go to. I have a couple staple questions that I like to ask everybody. So here's what do you think uh has been like either the most formative time or the most formative event in your life? Like a couple years in high school where something clicked and you figured something out, or something like that. Like it's been very formative. What's that?
I think the coolest thing, like on a learning standpoint, would probably been at the police academy. My mom used to joke that I went through life with blinders on and never really noticed what was going around me. Um, was basically oblivious. Um, and I didn't have a good means of learning. I had kind of always struggled to learn moving through school. I had to like be the guy that wrote down everything constantly until it kind of just like got ingrained in my memory. And going through the police academy, we had to learn a lot extremely fast. They kind of said you're basically trying to pack in like a 4 year law degree into just less than like 18 weeks.
Yeah.
So like they had like instructors who were lawyers and such, and they're going over all the entire code book. And so you did flashcards. You as you marched to chow and such, you just looked down at your flashcards and just read it, and you kind of just got really good at like audible listening and such. I never could learn by listening before. I had to read it. That's kind of where like listening clicked for me. It
Mm-hmm.
changed everything because I now like my favorite form of learning is through like listening to podcasts.
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of weird, but like it took like an event where it was like either sink or swim, and then I was able to start learning by just listening, and then from there I was learning how to trade options, how to trade stocks,
Mm-hmm.
learn a bunch of stuff about management. I would extend the next 6 years of my police career driving around instead of listening to radio, listening to podcasts. So
Oh, interesting. That's really cool. I never having seen you less than 6 times growing up, I never would have thought that you were someone who wasn't killing it at school, but yeah, that's really interesting. I suppose driving around a small town in a cruiser for 8 hours a day will do it listening to podcasts. That's really cool.
yeah, I went through like 3 or 4 podcasts, a shift. Have to mute it between radio calls, but I wasn't always like I don't consider myself a bright guy, but I struggled with like talking for years, so I had to go to speech therapy when I was growing up.
Oh.
Um, and then I didn't learn to read until like about 8 years old or something like that. So
Mm. Hmm. Gotcha. That's interesting. Hmm. Yeah, and there's this weird thing where we just you know, like let's see, what's a good way of saying this? Like we like growing up, right? We wouldn't ever really see you guys, so all I ever heard was like stories from my parents, and like I hear these stories about how your dad was like notoriously strict and on top of things, and so we like me and Charlie and Rachel, we're growing up. We're thinking you guys are all like super children, just on top of it.
no, I mean my mom, bless her heart, really worked hard on like my speech. Um, I did like weird exercises like talking and reading books with marbles in my mouth and such, just
Hmm.
to kind of get good at talking. Um, Math was the only thing that came naturally. I was really good at.
Mm-hmm.
By the time I was like graduating high school, I was like I was scoring really high on like grammar and stuff like that.
Nice.
But no, it didn't come naturally or anything. But being homeschooled and kind of being able to like hyper focus in on like the academia stuff that you were struggling with
Mm-hmm.
was a huge plus. You know,
For
you're doing good
sure.
on math. Let's not spend so much energy on that. Let's focus on like your weaknesses, kind of thing.
Gotcha. All right. So were you homeschooled through high school or to what age?
Homeschooled from I don't know what first through 12.
First through 12th? Dang, all
So
the
I
way
never
through high
went to
school.
public school.
Wow, is that the same
Yeah, so I was
for all your siblings, basically?
yeah, all the siblings. I think my only true like public school experience was driver's ed.
Interesting.
Yeah.
That's crazy. You know, usually the benefit of homeschooling is small class sizes, but you just kind of shot that one right in the foot there, with the size of your family.
The family was big, but technically the class size was still one.
I suppose you got me
So
there.
I was the top of my class, and I was the most likely to succeed.
Gotcha. Yeah, I take it your mom was basically full time teacher for everybody then growing up, right?
Yeah. So she
Nice.
she finally retired. The last one's in college now. So
Nice. I imagine like just not knowing what I imagine like at a certain point you have to stop making stuff in batches for 13 people or something, you know? So like the cooking, I imagine, gosh, that's got to be nuts. I remember my parents when they had to stop cooking for 5 people and just themselves, they like had this sudden crisis and they were eating out all the time because they couldn't find the motivation to cook for just 2 people. I imagine that's just got to be
well,
exacerbated in your family.
uh, they say it's like the cooking for two is just as much work as cooking for like 10. But like when you have to cook for 10, there's just no excuse. You can't take 10 people out to dinner every night, so you're kind of forced into having to cook for them.
That's
So
true. Mm-hmm. Yep, that was the big thing with my parents. They're like, yeah, it just doesn't really feel worth it to cook for 2 after having to cook for 5 every night for 20 years. Nice. All right, let me see. Where did I go? I had some other family-ish questions to roll into. What did I have here? Oh yeah, so like, obviously, like growing up in a family of 10, that's a very unique situation. So like, like for yourself, like, would you ever imagine like having a crap load of kids like that? Like, probably not 10, obviously, but like, what are your thoughts on that?
the wife and I are pretty much agreed that we're just not going to have kids. So we're going to be complete opposites here.
Yep.
There's other reasons to it than just it wasn't because I grew up with a big family.
Yeah, for sure.
It's kind of a weird world to bring kids into, and just having seen like my siblings who've had kids and how like they've struggled and like I just can't imagine like the financial strain it has one on like a family
Mm-hmm.
nowadays. You're forced to either put your kids in like daycare or someone has to stay home and watch the kids as the other one works the entire time. And then
Mm-hmm.
so one, it's a weird world. Two, that there's like a huge financial responsibility with it.
Mm-hmm.
Basically, you're going to surrender the option of putting like money away for your retirement for the next 18 years, and those 18 years are going to be a huge benefit, to earn compound interest for your retirement account. So
Mm-hmm.
what happens is about 45% of Americans retire broke. Actually, they don't have enough money
Mm-hmm.
to actually fund their retirement accounts, and so they're taking a huge pay cut in their retirement life, relying heavily on Social Security, which is already overextended and like honestly like it's in debt. It doesn't have the funds to pay people, but people are relying heavily on it.
Mm-hmm.
So they keep borrowing technically from the future, and that's why our national debt is just astronomical. One of the reasons. So
Gotcha. Yep, for sure. Yeah, those are definitely good reasons for sure. It makes sense. It definitely makes sense for a financially minded guy like yourself. That's I can tell you thought a lot about it. That's awesome. All right, let's see. Oh
yeah,
yeah, here's one. How'd you meet your wife?
I met my wife at church. Um, she just strolled in with her folks one day. She didn't know how to drive, so being a police officer, I offered to give her driver's ed lessons. Those turned into dates, and then I I think we've been dating for like maybe 6 months, and I decided I wanted to marry her. So went and bought a ring. I brought my sister with me to help me pick out a good, suitable ring, which was actually a good idea because the
For sure.
first choice was actually her ring. So I
Ah,
would have bought my wife the same ring as my sister, which would have been weird. So I
yeah, I
picked
can
out a
imagine.
different one. That thing burned a hole in my pocket. I wanted to propose on 4th of July and ended up proposing like June 11th.
Nice. That's pretty good. Yeah, I think
I don't
Debbie
think
and I dated for roughly a similar amount to when you bought the ring. I think we dated for 7 months before I proposed, like the day before Christmas Eve, so like the 23rd. Yeah, nice.
okay. Well,
Yeah,
when you
see,
know, you know. So there's no reason to dance around it and draw it out for three something years.
yeah, that was kind of my logic. I'm like, hey, let's pop this in now. I mean, my theory was always that if I sat on it for a while, right? Because I think I'd just graduated or something like that. I had my first job, still living at my uncle's and whatnot. But I figured if I stayed single for too many more years, I'd develop all these like single habits and things like that, right? And then if you get married after that, you're just gonna have to fight your way through it, and it'll just add more. Whereas this way, we could you get married and you develop completely different bad habits, but they're together. So, all right.
If your wife get mad at you for like leaving your socks on the floor, not throwing them in the hamper.
Oh no, it's the opposite with us. I'm probably a little more anal about that sort of thing, uh, generally
Oh, really?
speaking. But yeah, it's not too bad, really. I'm not that anal about it, but let me tell you, it gets me sometimes. All right, let me find what was my next one here. Oh yeah, here's one sort of related. So, what would you say is your biggest regret from like growing up or your whole life or whatever? But what's like one of your biggest regrets?
Hmm. Um, I think I didn't really understand like how many different types of career options were out there.
Mm-hmm.
So I think if I was to do it all over again, I would skip police work, and I'd probably go actually be a lineman. Um, I think it's a kind of an exciting type of field to be in. So that's what I
Mm-hmm.
would have done differently.
A lineman, not like an NFL lineman, like a construction line.
Yeah, the guys that work on power lines to keep the lights on.
Oh, I gotcha. Yeah. Okay.
Power. So
That'd be
they
pretty cool.
they tend to make really decent money.
Oh yeah.
You can start at like 18 years old, and they usually make over like 40 something dollars an hour.
Mm-hmm.
On average, you're going to make easily six figures from like all the overtime and call outs and stuff.
For sure.
So you do that just for 10 something years. You're 28, my age, and you've already made over $1 million in income.
Mm-hmm.
Subtract tax and cost of living, but you make really decent money. It's quite the adventure. It puts you on track to be well ahead of everybody else.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I mean, it's not like going to school to be a doctor or something.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I've also considered maybe if I'd actually gone to school for a college degree, um, maybe I would have actually focused on coding. Now that I could have
Oh
looked
yep.
back,
Mm-hmm.
because I do enjoy it. Taking like courses, not college courses, but just like online courses on the side just to
Yep.
learn it. So maybe I would have done that differently.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah, that's actually a really good point. Yeah, because like, obviously getting married right out of college for me didn't really give me much opportunity for this. But if you're like single, right, the amount of like flexibility you have to like just really capitalize early on is huge. Like if you buy like a piece of crap house that you can like fix up while you're living in it, if you can work some of these jobs that pay you really well right out of college, and you don't have to stick with it forever, right? Like one of my like goals in life is to switch jobs a ton, just do a ton of weird different stuff and have that opportunity. But like when you're young, you can capitalize on that really early on, save up a ton of money. It's a really good point. Hmm.
The military is a good option for a lot of young guys. I mean, you get to travel the world a little bit on the
Hmm.
government's paycheck. It doesn't pay that great, but it's quite the adventure. And
It's
then you
true.
get the GI Bill, so you could you can either do classes while you're in the military and come out, with a 4-year degree or something, or you
Hmm.
can go do college after the fact.
For
But
sure. Yeah, I agree. You get a lot of interesting experiences that way. I have a couple of friends who did that, and it definitely like I think it's been really good for them. The couple that did. Um, all right, we got that. Oh yeah, so you're over there on the East Coast. You lived over there in New Hampshire for a long time, I'd imagine. Do you think you'll always be living in that area, or do you have any like other like maybe like dream areas of the country that you'd want to like retire to and live in?
so my first choice would probably be to move back to Colorado, but I have the old ball and chain, so we got to agree on everything. So it'd probably be like Virginia, North Carolina, or Florida as the other options.
That's pretty good.
But
Yep. Yeah, Colorado's very popular. It definitely is, and Florida's the ultimate retirement state. Like it's basically the Midwest on the East Coast. I do like Florida when I'm down there. They're a pizza ranch away from basically being Minnesota. Let's see. I got Okay, so here we go. So I got this question lined up here. I call this one the weird huge family speed run, right? 'Cause I have a ton of questions just about your interesting family situations, right? So I'm just want to blast through these, right? All right. So
okay.
so huge family speed run. Question number one: using the bathroom. Like what kind? Like do you have interesting strategies, right? Because I mean, when you got 12 people and you come home, what do you have? I mean, two, three bathrooms probably in a house usually. Like what's that situation?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5. With 5 bathrooms?
Five bathrooms. I suppose that
So
wouldn't be too bad.
no. So I mean, like my brother and I had a bathroom. Um, my 3 sisters shared a bathroom. My other 2 sisters shared another one. Um, and then I left like a guest bathroom, and then like my mom's own personal bathroom, basically.
Mm-hmm.
We
Interesting.
bought an old bed and breakfast, and that
Oh
house
yeah.
was in terrible condition. My dad has spent every year since like 2008 fixing it. So he bought it in a market crash, the worst market crash probably ever,
Mm-hmm.
and he's been just remodeling that thing ever since.
I think I remember like seeing some pictures of your house, like from when you guys first bought it. I think we got a ton at Grandma's house or something. We were looking through 'em. I do remember. Did it have like a secret passage or something?
No, well, it kind of felt like it. Being like an older house, it had like a servant's wing kind of thing.
Oh,
Um,
gotcha.
so you could go between like the great room or like living room area, go all the way across the back of the house and pop out near the dining room. So it's kind of weird.
Oh, interesting.
That's gone now. Yeah.
Dang. Okay, so I suppose buying a massive old fixer upper will fix some of the bathroom woes. That is true. That's a good one. All right, next on the weird huge family speed run. I think you already answered this with your big 4 passenger van. So did you guys just always have a massive people hauler, or did you ever just like need to roll in multiple vehicles? Like you're somewhere and you're like, oh God, we don't have enough vehicles to get people places.
So I mean, we had an old station wagon, which that got traded in for basically a 15 passenger van. When we went on trips and if we flew, we would rent a 15 passenger van. So it's kind of like it was a
Mm-hmm.
go-to form of transportation. It was like the only way to incorporate all that people in one spot.
Gotcha. Now I've noticed with all the families that have any sort of van, even if it just has 3 rows, there's two configurations. Either the messiest youngest kids are thrown in the back, or that's where the cool kids, the older kids, sit in the back, and then the younger ones are up towards the front. What configuration did your family use?
We did the cool kids in the back,
Nice.
um, farther from mom and dad.
I think that's the way to do
Nothing
it.
against them,
Hmm.
but that's the way to do it. You want that privacy as you get older.
Hmm. Nice. Cool beans. All right, so we got the bathroom there, multiple vehicles. So the big old bed and breakfast. So I'm assuming, did everybody have their own bedrooms?
We shared bedrooms, so a lot of us had bunk beds and such.
Gotcha. Gotcha. Yeah, that makes sense. I wouldn't imagine it would have, 11 bedrooms, whatever that would take. Cool. Interesting. So, I mean, obviously, growing up, multiple people hitting puberty at the same time. Was it like a sock on the doorknob maneuver you'd pull? Was
No, so like we didn't really date or anything when we were growing up.
Mhm.
So a lot of us um, met our significant other and married them and moved out right away. So
Mm-hmm.
there was no sock on the door or anything like that.
Gotcha, gotcha. Cool beans. Awesome. All right, let's see what else I have here. Oh yeah, we talked a little bit about food already, but like I imagine when you're cooking for that many people, like is it a lot of like, like soups, like chili, like a lot of big items like that, or were they going hard? Were they like, making actually I don't even imagine. Like you got your meat and potatoes and everything for that many people? Like what was your diet kind of growing up? I'm just super curious about this.
Yeah, they did like soups and stews. That was really common because you can basically cook in a pot all day to make dinner and kind of just not and only stir it occasionally. Breakfast, we did a lot of breakfast burritos. So basically, you just took a tortilla, put refried beans on it, throw that on a skillet so it heats up, then cook a couple eggs, and did hash browns, and you put that in the middle of the
Oh.
tortilla, wrap it up, serve as a burrito. Pancakes are, rather cheap and filling, so we did
Mm-hmm.
pancakes in bulk, waffles a lot of times. Um,
Nice.
Didn't have a whole lot of cereal growing up because cereal is actually rather expensive.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Oatmeal was a big one though. We did do
Oh yeah.
oatmeal because you can make a huge pot of that. So that's kind of what like
Nice.
breakfast was made out of. Dinner was burritos most nights. Um, just beans and rice on a tortilla. Occasionally, some meat like chicken or a hamburger. Um,
Interesting. I'll have to take notes for this. This is good. I like that idea. Nice. All right, let's see. What else do I have here? Um. Oh yeah, going out to restaurants. I'm gonna get like, was it a situation where you're basically always calling ahead? You're letting like, I remember when like going on trips in elementary school, right? They were always calling ahead, like, hey, we're bringing a bus load up, right? Like, was that ever a thing? Like, calling ahead, because I imagine, like, a family of four, they can usually fit somewhere, right? But if their place is a little packed, you know, 10, 12, 12, that's not, that's a ton.
mhm. I don't know if like we actually ever called ahead.
Mm-hmm.
Never really was around for that. But I feel like we often went in between hours. So like
Oh.
there's usually a dinner rush and a lunch rush. So if you show up like directly in the middle, you're more likely to get a seat.
Yep.
And the other unique thing we didn't really have 3 meals a day. We usually stayed down at about two.
Mm-hmm.
My mom believes that you should eat when you're hungry and not just because it's the time of day to be
Yep.
eating. So what
Mm-hmm.
we'd eat breakfast at like 10 or 11 a.m., and then we would eat dinner around like 6-ish. So you'd end up eating about 2 meals a day.
Nice. Cool.
So I
Yeah,
guess you'd
honestly.
save a third of the meals.
Yeah, it's true. You cut down one third of the meals, and honestly, I probably, generally eat probably about 2 meals a day, maybe a little bit of something for breakfast, but other than that, not much. So, whatever that breakfast being the most important meal of the day, total bullshit. Total bullshit. Pushed by big breakfast. Let me tell you, I read an article on that one the other week. All right, weird huge family speed run using videos. Oh yeah, last question for the weird huge family speed run. Obviously you lived in a pretty big house, so maybe this isn't as big an issue. But just like general privacy, like if you want to go read a book or not be around a bunch of other people, was there did you have like a specific when you needed to get out, you'd go to like this specific place, you'd like jump out in the yard and go sit under a tree or something? Like, did you have any strategies for that?
No, I guess the only place I really went was back to my bedroom.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of respected, so if you're in your room, you're kind of fine.
Nice. Cool. I dig it.
We all got along really well, so.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that definitely helps. I like that. All right. There we go. And then, oh yeah, and just because I can't remember, what was your dad's job growing up? I vaguely remember him being a pastor, but I could be off. Am I off?
He's had a couple of different things. He used to manage and build golf courses, and then
Mm-hmm.
he got out of that to work for Hertz Rental Cars and run basically a branch. I forget where. I think it was Grand Junction Airport.
Mm-hmm.
That was better hours than his previous job as golf superintendent.
Mm-hmm.
But then he got out of that, started his own business building custom cabinets, and on the side, in order to kind of fill in the hours in between building cabinets, he would do like handyman stuff. So I used to go with him on jobs to kind of help, like, build custom closets or something like that, and do some just general
Mm-hmm.
construction.
Nice.
He was doing like volunteer pastoring at the time,
Oh,
and
gotcha,
decided that
gotcha,
he
gotcha.
kind of wanted to do it full time. So that's what led to our move from Colorado to New Hampshire, because he was offered a position. So ever since he's been out here, being a pastor, his primary income is mostly from being a full-time day trader, though.
Gotcha. Yep, that definitely checks out. Cool. Yeah, I'd seen that you like on Facebook and stuff that you did a bunch of woodwork at your house and stuff too. That's super cool. I have not done a whole
Yeah.
lot of woodwork, but actually I'm going to send you a picture of one thing that I did. I made a cajon, and I fractal wood burned the edges with an old microwave power supply. So I'll show that one to you, but that's about the extent. If it's not plywood, I basically don't touch it. All right, let me pull. All right, we got
I've
that
done
one.
a couple of wood finishing projects, basically for the homes I manage. People
Mm-hmm.
just don't know how to treat nice things.
Yep.
So one person thought a nice hardwood table would make a great ironing board. So they left these iron imprints all over the table from when they were ironing a shirt or something. So sand that sucker down and give her a nice stain and a couple clear coats of polyurethane and call it good.
Nice. I like it. I like it. All right, let's see. Okay, I think we finished off the weird huge family speed run. What else do I have here? Oh yeah, what would you in middle school think about you now?
Me in middle school, I'd probably think I'm pretty cool.
Mm-hmm.
I'm definitely cooler than I was in middle school. Um, I was I was homeschooled through middle school, so You could argue I was the coolest kid in class still,
It's true.
but true. No, but I had like a completely different mindset. I didn't really know what I wanted to be.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I wasn't like anti-college as much as I am now, as when I was in like middle school. I hated school, to be honest.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I guess that only grew. So I did some college. Was working on a criminal justice degree, in hopes of getting a police job. Got the police job. Decided to keep working on my degree in the doing like night classes and such. And then I spoke to a sergeant at a neighboring PD one night when I was just, when we get bored, you would meet up at the town line and such, drink coffee, waiting for calls to come in. We have a 10 code called 1078. So, anyways, um, he told me that the criminal justice degree was the stupidest degree that anyone could ever get. So I was like, I was only getting this degree in order to get the police job and help me with promotions and such. And here's a supervisor that's been a cop for 20-something years. So being young, you're like, gotta put your good faith in someone that's older
Yeah.
than you, that's a senior, has been doing this longer than you. Seek wisdom from those who have been there before you. And he's telling me this is a stupid degree, so why am I bothering
Yep.
it? So I basically finished my last class and then never went back. And ever
Nice.
since kind of focused on um, education instead of getting a degree. So I've always focused on being self-taught,
Mm-hmm.
like picking up a book to read or something, or paying for a course, and more focused on the journey than I am focused on the piece of paper at the end
Mm-hmm.
that says I know
Nice.
something. So
Cool. Nice. All right. Got that. Oh yeah.
that's a
So.
that's
Oh, go ahead.
go ahead. Oh, okay, I'll go ahead. So I was going just to go off on a tangent here.
Mm-hmm.
So like education, for example, you can have a bachelor's or associate's degree in something, and at the police department, by you having that piece of paper, even though it's irrelevant to your current job position, it could help you get a promotion over someone else that um, doesn't have a degree. So like we had one guy I used to work with who was a history major, um, and but like they were all excited that he had a college degree. It didn't matter that it was in history and like irrelevant to everything we're doing on a daily basis. It didn't provide like a business background for accounting. So if he wanted to be a chief someday, he would understand budgets and stuff. But that didn't matter. But they put so much emphasis on a college degree nowadays.
Yep. Yep. Depending on where you're going, that's definitely true. 100%. Um. Definitely. All right. So let me roll in. I think I got maybe one or two more left here. Um. One, I think I vaguely remember from some posts on Facebook and whatnot. Have you lost a lot of weight recently or something?
I have. I used to be close to around 180. I'm down to like 168 right now. So,
Gotcha, gotcha. How tall are
but
you?
I am 5'6.5".
Oh, gotcha. Yeah, you are a beefy fella. You're a beefy fella walking around at
I was
180 at 5'6". Yeah.
I was a beefy fella. Yeah, that's a little heavy for my height. Um, I mean, like I was still working out and such, so I was able to hide some of the weight because
Mhm.
like I had like the pectoral muscles, so like the fat around the stomach just made me look flat. But man, I went from having I think the lightest I ever was at like full growth, no like let's say after puberty, I'll say,
Mhm.
where I was like in the police department working out 6 days a week. I was weighing like 150 ish, so I was
Gotcha.
really light and I was ripped and I had like true 6-pack abs and working out, 5 to then eventually like 2 days a week, and then I was just going every other week. So
Yep.
the weight just added on.
Gotcha. So do you think it was mostly like you stopped working out as much, or has there been any sort of like dietary changes that you made?
Dietary changes for sure. I went from eating basically a gluten-free diet on my folks because a lot of my family members have gluten allergies,
Mm-hmm.
and it was just easier to make everyone adopt the diet instead of like doing two different meals
Definitely.
for everybody. So because of that, you were eating um, less carbs in a sense, or like bad breads for you.
Yep.
So then I got married and kind of defaulted back to eating just normal food. Um, and then right now, except for a couple of cheat days, I'm doing basically the keto diet, which is
Oh.
high protein, high fat. So all you're basically cutting out is just carbs. You're only
Yep.
allowed to like 5 grams or something of carbs a day, so it's really low. Um, you can only have about like 20 almonds, for example, which are really high in protein, but there's a certain carb count that after about like 20 almonds, you're gonna about break your carbs for the day.
There you are, counting out
Uh,
19 almonds exactly. Efficiency.
19 and a half. I like to push the envelope.
Oh, damn.
Uh,
Thankfully,
but
the stomach
yeah,
doesn't
like
round up.
we decided to give it a go after like Halloween, so November 1st, we jumped on the diet, and like the first week, she and I both dropped around like 7 pounds. It's just like,
Wow.
and cleanses your system of all the junk that's in it. Get rid of like a lot of stupid water weight.
Mm-hmm.
And then after that, you're consistently drop like 1 pound or so, like a week. So
Nice. Yeah, I like it. See, I've always had the opposite problem. I'm about 5'10" maybe, and I'm probably clocking in at about 140. 150 has been my goal weight since high school. Never quite cracked 150, so we'll try and get there eventually. So I've actually been googling like I tried just for craps and giggles looking up what food is like the most calorie dense percent, right? Really maximize your calories for the value, and apparently just straight lard. So it's gonna be it's gonna be spoon feeding myself lard when I decide to go on my diet, but
oh,
lard and rice. No. All right, let me see. I had another one buried here. It was Oh yeah, here. Okay, here we go. Here's a slightly deep one. What is your biggest insecurity?
insecurity.
Mm-hmm.
Hmm.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Probably.
for myself, it's probably like you know, um, like not being seen as like being able to handle something, right? I love being the guy who handles things, right? I like when people come to me for help and stuff like that, and if I feel like I'm not handling something perfectly, oh my goodness, it's downhill from there. So that's probably mine.
Yeah. It's been my height for years. I kind of had a slight small man syndrome thing going on for a bit and got over it.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I think the other one is I don't want people to think I'm stupid.
Oh
I know
yeah.
I'm not stupid, but like, um, there's so much pressure in the world for people to have a college degree, and people think that you're useless without it. So I I feel like because I don't have one sometimes that people are gonna automatically
Mm-hmm.
think of me as kind of a lower intelligent being, whereas
Gotcha.
if you give me enough time, I can prove myself. So that's probably one of the things I would say that probably would be considered an insecurity for me.
Gotcha. Just so you know, I'd only met you like cursorily before, or like talking over Warzone comms or messaging or something. You never come off as anybody stupid or uneducated at all, right? I like you always come off as very very smart. So no worries. All right. Let me see. Okay, I think I got one last question here. So like
And I stop my wife and make sure she's still standing.
have to pop in there. All right, last question. What's like kind of, at this point, what do you imagine is kind of like your long-term plan for life, sort of, or maybe just some of your long-term goals? Like you mentioned, you'd probably might do this till you retire and then maybe move somewhere, but what's kind of like your long-term plan or just some goals you have in your life?
um, I feel like I'm a businessman at heart, so I kind of always I'm coming up with like business strategies and such. So I
Mm-hmm.
would like to take like my kind of my hobby, my passion for video games, and turn it into kind of a business, if you will, where we start, releasing a game like once every year, every other 2 years, and then come up with like either a subscription based model or in game purchasing in order to create a nice cash flowing business.
Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of like I think would be really fun.
Gotcha.
On In the meantime, I'm just gonna keep focusing on my career and hopefully maybe become general manager someday or something like that.
Cool. Awesome. A little bit of entrepreneurship. That's awesome. Cool beans. That definitely fits you, I think. I think for sure. All right. Well, I think that's all the questions I got. Do you have any particular questions you like to ask or anything like that, or what do you think?
No, Brian, I think we're out of time.
I think so. I think
This
so.
game,
All right. Awesome.
well
Awesome.
done though, sir.
Oh, I thank you. All right. I'll stop the old recording.